But who's Scott Hanselman, really? What exactly?
Can I try? I did some research.
Oh, okay, yeah, go
So
ahead.
I don't have as much of a software development background. So I did do some investigating into Scott Hanselman. It's actually pretty exciting doing some work because he was on such beloved shows as both Happy Days and the Charles in Charge show. That was
that's Scott Baio. Thanks.
I got nothing on Scott Hanselman.
Okay.
You just Googled Scott, didn't you?
First I got Scott paper towels. You should do something about that, Scott.
Baio doesn't even show up when you when you Google for Scott. You don't even get Baio on the first couple pages.
Do you know there's toilet paper above you? Are you aware of this?
There's toilet paper. There's fly fishing, and there's the toilet paper people and I are deep into it right now.
Scott Sports seems to be number one.
Scott Sports is the problem. Right now I'm third.
You're fifth on mine.
Well, it depends. You have to hit Control Shift N and go into incognito mode. Otherwise, you're getting personalized settings. You don't want to get personalized.
Which could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be like...
It's true. You can never really trust what you're going to get from Google anymore.
No, you can't actually. Google bubbles you. So if you are, let's say you're an Obama supporter and you search for Obama, you're going to get all sorts of positive things. And if you, seriously, this is totally true. They know what cookies you're looking at and they will tell you what you want to hear.
I'm going to try that right now.
This is the future of...
If you're a Republican, you get binders full of women, no matter what you search
I'm searching for Obama.
I'm apolitical, so to be clear.
I got his personal homepage, I got the Wikipedia entry, and I got the White House.
I use DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo.
There is absolutely nothing.
We never actually decided what Scott Hanselman does. Just to point that out.
Let's go to DuckDuckGo.com and find out.
Ooh, it sort of animates in. That's kind of cool. Hansel Minutes. You got a technology podcast. I see. That's what we're doing here. How does it know?
What a coincidence.
And you're a principal program manager.
So just to be clear, everything that has happened up until this point is going in the trash.
It's all the show. Really? Come on.
Lord help us.
We're going to have to go for like 2 hours before we get enough footage to make even a 5-minute show.
No, so this is exactly why I started my podcast.
Which is what?
All the terrible podcasts out there?
My podcast is known as the podcast that doesn't waste your time.
Oh, it is a half hour usually,
because
right?
this what we're doing right now, this is the 15 minutes that I fast forward on everyone else's podcast.
That's true.
It does turn out that if you actually just stay focused, you don't need an editor. So there's still a little tip for you there.
Hold on, wait. Tips for staying focused. Tips for staying focused. Sorry, just take notes. You are listening to Stack Exchange Podcast number 35 with Joel Spolsky. And today we have special guest Scott Hanselman. Hey, Scott.
Hello.
And our usual cast of
Misfits.
David Fullerton.
Hi.
And Jay Hanlon.
Hello.
And you guys already know them from last week, so I won't reintroduce them. And because, there's so few people listening that it's unlikely anybody.
Well, I don't know who these gentlemen are.
That's true. Jay Hanlon is our new Director of Community Growth.
That changed in 3 ways, but that's okay.
Community Growth.
Sorry, Vice President of Community Growing.
Perfect.
Growing?
Close enough.
Not
Growth.
growths.
Is that a short show?
He's sort of like a VP of Growth, but he's also kind of oversees the community team, everything that involves either getting more people to come to the site or making the people that are on StackExchange.com, stickier and stay longer and be more engaged. And
I break things.
David is a VP of Engineering.
Yes.
He engineers, so he pulls the whistle. Choo-choo. Okay.
Chiefly.
And Scott, I understand that you have some tips for staying focused. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Scott.
That's okay. I'm on Tumblr right now anyway. I'm not really paying attention.
I heard that Tumblr is a really good way to get very, very specific pornography.
I was actually just moments ago, I created a Tumblr. I said that the world needs a Tumblr called Super Old People with Kindles.
Yes, it's just like that. It's just like that. For example, I'm really into shirtless guys with Siberian Huskies.
Are we starting the podcast over now?
No.
You should have heard last week's.
This is our best podcast.
This is not what I signed up for. Now, welcome to Joel on Bears. Podcast number.
Joel on coal was always my favorite idea.
Okay.
I mean, Joel talking about coal mining.
Okay. Coal mining.
So let's talk. Can we talk about Scott's recent presentation at Webstock?
We can. Let me just say who Scott is. everybody, all my listeners know who Scott Hanselman is, but you're like a developer evangelist at Microsoft, right?
No,
No.
Let's talk about why we don't call me a developer evangelist.
I'm sorry.
Because I'm not. No.
You're thought of as that often.
Well, I'm unfortunately sometimes thought of as that. I mean, God bless the developer evangelists, but developer evangelists are field people often that kind of go out there and spread the word. They're kind of like, they knock on the door and they've got the book of Azure and they're like, have you heard the news?
You can hear the news of Azure. Yeah. That's what
have you heard the good news?
Right.
I'm a community manager. I manage the ASP.NET kind of IIS, Azure, anything angle bracket related.
Okay.
Angle brackets and curly braces.
Does that include HTML and JavaScript?
Yeah, all that stuff. Anything webby.
Web stuff.
I work under Scott Goo for the ASP.NET team.
Scott Goo is in charge of Azure.
Right, exactly. And he's in charge of Azure and ASP.NET and IIS and media services and all that stuff.
He used to be in charge of Visual Studio.
No. He was never in charge of Visual Studio.
What was he? What was his previous?
He was always in charge. Always in charge of ASP.NET, and then now he's in charge of ASP.NET in the cloud.
Okay, got it. Azure is Microsoft's hosting of ASP.NET. Right, actually, it's a place where you can write some ASP.NET code and you can put it there, and it'll be cloudy.
That is overly simplistic.
I know. See, that's the trouble with these Microsoft guys is whenever you try to explain to them what they do.
No, it's very simple.
It's a million times more complicated than that. You don't appreciate why we have Windows 8, Windows 8 RT, Windows 8 RT Surface, Windows 8 Plus, and Windows 8 Ultimate Gaming Edition.
You're being special again, so let me Okay, let me break it down for you, okay? It's very simple. I never said that it was more complicated. I said that was simplistic.
You explain, yeah.
Azure is our cloud. 60 years ago, some guy from IBM said that in the future there would be 5 computers.
Yeah.
And there are. Amazon
and more.
There's ours, Azure runs PHP and Node and Python and ASP.NET and all those kind of things. There's nothing specific to ASP.NET about Azure.
It's cloudy. It's a platform as a service, right?
It is infrastructure as a service. It is services as services. It's Amazon.
All kinds of as servicey things. Yeah. Okay.
It's our cloud. You run anything you want.
Books?
Can you buy books?
Yeah.
From our cloud.
It's not. Is there 2-day delivery? That's important to me.
Yeah, you like that? Actually, I saw this blog post today about this guy who is using Amazon Prime to send himself toiletries, and he's set up a subscription for himself, which I think is special. Apparently going to Target is too much to ask for this gentleman.
Okay. First, that was me. Second, I own my toiletries on actually soap.com, which is not Amazon, but is owned by Amazon. But they have recently changed something. They now have these things that are cheap enough to send you Prime if they're included in a box with some other stuff. But if they have to send it by itself, it's not worth it to Amazon. And so there's certain products that if you try to buy them from Amazon, things like, one individual Q-tip, exactly. And they're like, yeah, you can buy it, and it's only 15 cents, and you can use your Prime subscription to get it in 2 days, but only if you're buying another thing.
Right.
It is not in this case.
Which is funny because the guy at the local 7-Eleven looks at me funny if I try to buy a Tic Tac with a credit card, and he's like, "You're going to need to buy 3 Tic Tacs."
That's right.
And but Amazon doesn't really blink. What I ordered recently on Amazon, and they had sent me a giant
cigarette.
box. No, it was actually a replacement Lego lightsaber.
Oh.
Yeah, and it came in a box that you could put a laptop in.
That's important, right? Because most of the people that sell individual Legos online are boycotting the whole Star Wars Lego category.
Are you kidding? Why?
Yeah, because they hate it. Because the true Lego aficionados think that the whole Star Wars thing was a
It's high time we tackled this issue.
Yeah.
No, you're insane. Are you serious? What adult Lego fans don't like Lego Star Wars?
If you go to, a lot of them. Wait a minute, hold on. Let me go to Lego Park.
Just Google adult Lego fans.
Wait a sec. Someone is wrong on the internet. Hang on.
This would be closed as off topic on our Lego meta site.
It's true.
Hey, here's a question.
Wildly off topic.
Here's an off-topic question. Why do you have programming.stack exchange and Stack Overflow? It's the same thing. What a waste.
Yeah. Should we talk about that? Is that a real question?
Well, yeah, it's a real question because it's silly. Just move it, merge them, and get over it.
There's a historical reason.
Well, that's a bad reason then.
History is for losers. Currently, here, and I can say the party line. The party line is Stack Overflow is for things you do at your computer, and programmers.stack exchange is for things you do at the whiteboard.
Okay.
Is that so hard to understand?
That's obvious.
Yeah.
It's always with these Stack Exchange guys telling me that things are way more complicated than I thought they were.
They are. What really? Windows 8 RT? No, okay. Not your fault. Not your fault.
Stack Overflow is for questions about code.
Yeah, that's true. Stack Overflow is like, here's my lines of code.
Stack Overflow is the this doesn't work and how do I do it? While programming is the computer science. This theoretically wouldn't work. How would I do it?
We actually have a computer science site too.
Oh, for crying out!
Hold on, don't we have computer science and theoretical computer science?
There are a
Yes,
lot.
yes.
And there's also science of computers.
Just,
I think
that's just wrong.
That. Can I tell the historical reason, even though it's just going to make everybody mad?
Yeah.
We haven't been mad in some time.
Go
That
ahead.
sounds like
Tell
a
the
great
historical
idea.
reason.
The historical reason is that we used to just allow all kinds of programming questions on Stack Overflow, but for some reason, the questions which were highly subjective and highly conversational were very noisy and irritating to people. And so they started closing them. And when we created the Stack Exchange Area 51 thingamajiggy, the first thing that was proposed was, let's make an off-topic, I can't remember the words, but it was like, let's make things that are off-topic on Stack Overflow, but nevertheless should be on Stack Overflow, but you haven't allowed them. So it was going to be sort of programmers having conversations about stuff that wasn't quite as fact-oriented as the stuff on Stack Overflow. And so that got sort of renamed. When they first set up that site, there was a fear that it would become a dumping ground of things that are just like not good things to ask, like which is better, Emacs or VI. So the group of people that were, kind of actively involved in Programmer Stack Exchange tried to find a more positive kind of meaning for that site. Am I getting this totally wrong, David? Anybody?
No, that's right. Well, I mean, programmers started out as the place where you could ask anything that you couldn't ask on Stack Overflow, but then it became much...
They wanted to have the same rule that all the other sites have, which is, we want questions that can be answered, which aren't just long ranty conversations, et cetera, et cetera. So they narrowed it down to, now this is the place where you ask the questions about what algorithm, how does this algorithm work? Should I be having Scrum meetings, et cetera? Things like, all that stuff without lines of code, things that don't have code associated with them, but are nevertheless related to the art of being a programmer. So that's the current distinction, but I think it might be a historical accident. I, for one, wouldn't have minded having that stuff all mixed in on one big site.
The problem is that it just means I have 3 sites I have to go to. And while the Stack Exchange idea, I just think all things computery ought to be on Stack. I mean, Stack Overflow is the brand, really, so that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and Twitter, don't forget Twitter. You have to go to Twitter.
Is people on Twitter still?
Facebook.
Haven't we moved all over to AppNet? Isn't that where all first world problems are
That's
discussed?
only for people who have $50 that they don't know how else to spend.
Yeah, and don't want anybody to hear the things that they're saying.
I'm going to be spending my $50 on a new iPhone cable because apparently they all need new cables.
They're not available yet.
And you know what? You think you need one, but you need like 12. You need, one for every computer you ever plug into. You need one for the car to connect up the car stereo. You need one for...
Everything's amazing and nobody's happy.
Speaking of which, I'm going to Louis C.K. tonight.
Oh, don't even talk to me.
Yeah, he's doing a concert in New York tonight, and I'm going to it.
You have tickets, or you just show up?
I have tickets.
So that was not our normal crazy segue. Scott's blog post that he referenced is a play on a Louis C.K.
line. Everybody's happy and nobody's crazy. Yeah. I love it's the bit of where he's in the airplane and he's complaining.
Do you realize, Joel, that you are like a biscuit away from turning into Jerry Stiller? You know what I mean? Like, I've known you
and
for years,
our
but
podcast has a title.
You're just like right there, just a biscuit away from JerryStiller.com.
What did we get into here?
Is that domain available?
I got a problem with you people.
Finally, I got a name for my Tumblr. A biscuit away from JerryStiller.tumblr.com.
It's available. George,
can you grab that?
And your operating systems, is it home or enterprise?
Pin me, George, pin me.
Are we ready to start the actual podcast?
Introducing.
This is it, man. We have to keep every single thing we've talked about.
We got to keep it all.
Can we talk about Twitter?
No, I want to talk about Scott. You are the reason. One of the reasons you're a hero to me is that you work remotely, right? You live in Portlandia.
I do.
And
where young people go to retire.
And but you work for Microsoft, which is in Redmond, and I assume all of your colleagues are in Redmond.
They are.
So what I wanted to ask you about is how do you make that work? And that's kind of important to us here at The Stack, because we have, just to bring everybody up to speed, in case you're new to this, we have most of our developers or at least half of our developers, if you count all of our developers, are remote work from home in funny parts of the world, places like St. Louis and Berlin and Forest of Dean, which I've already made fun of so many times that it's not even worth going back to.
Corvallis, Oregon.
Corvallis, Oregon, which is at least it has a macho name. And all of our community team, except for Arthi. So all of our community team, except for one, are people that just work from home wherever they might happen to live. And we have now 3 offices, actually, although those are the 2 remote offices in Denver and London are sales offices. So we're not really doing development over there yet. So yeah, any tips you have on being a remote worker?
Well, gosh, if only I had some kind of blog that I could put all these tips on.
We could use 30 tips. If you happen to have, say, roughly 30 tips.
I actually have a blog post called 30 Tips.
Come on.
What
are the odds?
I'm actually that good.
How do you? So this will be the podcast version of
it.
it.
You're not joking, right?
No, we actually do want to know. So, for example,
I just think it's funny because every time someone asks me a question, I have a blog post for that. Right? I mean, have you heard the news?
Where do you think they're coming up with these questions, Scott? That's how interviews work.
Well, we actually care because we have remote teams. So I'll dig deeper. There's 2 specific things. I read the blog post, but I'm interested in sort of what's evolved since then as you've been. There's 2 things I think that are sort of challenging. One issue that we run into a little bit is I'm curious how you generally do kind of live chat interactions. And you've done some cool experiments. You talked about kind of portaling with somebody, which I'm guessing you're not still doing, but I'd be intrigued to hear about that. But
no, I do. I actually have a portal.
You still have it?
Portal. But we've actually moved it. Rather than a single office for me, I'm in a team room now. So I'm in a scrum room with another 7 people.
And you keep it live all the time, like an appliance?
Well, unless I'm picking my nose.
So if that screen is off, that means Scott is picking his nose, and then you turn it on again when you're
pretty much straight correlation 1-to-1. No, I mean I keep it on as much as I can. If I'm in meetings and stuff, no one needs to see me in a meeting.
So this is just and is there audio?
No, I just mute it, and then I want to say anything. They come over and they wave their hands frantically, and then I turn it on.
So if you see, now you've got like a little 2-inch window in the corner of your 30-inch monitor, right?
No, I have 4 monitors, and one of them is dedicated to the portal.
Otherwise, dedicated monitor
if they're not the size and shape of a normal human, then they're just like a little QuickTime stamp, and that doesn't make any sense.
No, that doesn't.
I truly believe that it is important when doing video communication for remote worker purposes that you organize the size of your window and the size of your monitor so that the person's head is the head size of a normal person.
That's interesting.
I like that.
No, I'm totally serious. It's because you connect them emotionally. And this is why I've always had a problem with the Stack Overflow IRC thing. And I realize that I'm old and they're young.
Yeah.
But the idea that real substantive conversation is effective over typing. Not only is it a waste of their keystrokes, it's dangerous on their hands. Pick up the damn phone.
I met my husband on IRC.
Did you really?
Yeah. But that was a long time ago because I'm an old person.
That relationship continues now, even over
that
IRC.
Is correct. No, we've since met in person.
Oh, that's nice for you.
Actually, shortly thereafter.
It's hard to get married over IRC.
Well, hold on, this isn't a fair criticism because they're 2 different things, right? I mean, you use chat for certain interactions, and you use calls for other interactions.
Chat is how you get on the phone.
No, you use it for.
As soon as you find yourself typing more than 5 sentences in chat, get off of chat.
What about email? You never email?
You
only call?
5 sentences.
Go to 5 sentences.
If you don't like 5, he'll offer you 3.
I would even go with 3 sentences for email. I hate it when if an email is like a whole page long, it's unless it's you don't know.
Okay, if it's 3 sentences in an email, then we just drop it in chat.
So I think there's something interesting.
No, but you're just saying move your keystrokes from something searchable to something kind of marginally searchable. Pick up the phone, solve the problem.
Let's write that down. I think there's an interesting because we use chat a lot here to communicate, and I think there's places it works phenomenally when it's chat. So we're you want to loosely share things.
We also have a Hangout, right? So like the core team is on a Hangout all the time.
No, they're not all the time.
A lot of the time.
A lot of the time. They're on a Google Hangout, which allows 10 people. And this is actually a problem because we have 11, I think, that we want to get on there most of the time.
You just need to get rid of one of those guys.
There's only 10 you want on it, right?
Our core team hangs out both on a Hangout, a Google Hangout, where they can squeeze 10 people in. And they also have a chat room. And there is...
Yeah, we still use chat all the time.
Yeah, but it's like
for short messages, it's way better than email because you don't want to group email everyone, but it's in a place where everyone can see it.
And they respond immediately. It's not like it gives you no permission to be asynchronous. So you can say, who's been mucking around in the file blurb.cpp, and then somebody will be like, "Oh, that was me. Why?" And then you take it offline.
And I think that's what it's sort of perfect for.
That's exactly what I said.
But I think there's a tendency with chat though. It seems so efficient. It's so comfortable. It's easy to get pulled into conversations that don't work well. And we do this too sometimes, I think. And you'll see the rule you'll see people get into sort of debates, discussions, right? My basic take is if people are having what I'd call an interaction, and if each of more than one person, usually it's two, but it could be three, if each person has said two things and gotten no closer to consensus, that is a conversation that will spiral into insanity in chat.
Exactly.
As soon as
someone's calling you Hitler, and then it's over.
Right. If you see like, I think this, I think that, if the next two things are, I think something almost exactly like this, and I think something exactly like that, it's going to end with Hitler, almost without fail.
Yeah,
that's Godwin's law.
We should call that. Oh, I was just going to call it Hanlon's law.
Don't name a Hitler law after me.
It is actually.
Come
on, you guys have been on the internet long enough.
Yes,
this is a thing. It's Godwin's law.
Yeah. I think that is a law. Hanlon's law, however, there's also Spolsky's law, which says that any conversation about conversation on the internet will eventually refer to Godwin's law, and then it's over. But seriously, folks.
Well, Hanlon's razor is different than Hanlon's.
Hanlon's razor, not named for my family.
Hanlon's razor is never a tribute to malice, which is adequately explained by stupidity.
Oh, I love that law. I love that law because people are so stupid.
You're welcome, Joel.
And they mean well.
And if I look on Wikipedia here, you don't actually have a law, Spolsky. So
law of leaky abstractions.
Is that your law?
There's the Joel rule too. The Joel test, rather.
Oh my God, you didn't know you had a law. You have your own law. They deleted my Wikipedia page, and I'm still sore about it. And you have two.
Let me go. I'm going to go put it back.
No, I'm looking at it. It's redirected from Spolsky's law. Oh my God, you have like 2 pages. Maybe I was deleted for being a mouthpiece for my employer.
Ooh, burn.
That sounds like you're an evangelist. That's interesting.
No, there's like a whole discussion about it. They actually have a section where they were saying, well, he clearly exists, so he passes the existence test. Oh, that's great. Thanks for that validation.
Well, sometimes you're not sure.
There's be a lot written about you, I think.
I don't know. Who cares? You know what I mean? I just want to get my money and retire.
Yeah, what are you going to do when you retire?
Probably teach.
Really? What are you going to teach?
You've taught before, haven't you?
Probably computer science.
Wait,
wait
a minute. That's what you're doing for your job.
Yeah, but see, right now I'm not allowed to have an opinion. Every time I blog something, like, oh, hey, I got this Intel laptop. It's got Windows 8. Windows 8 seems fine. Yeah. Oh, you're such a shill. Oh, really? Windows 8 seems fine. Yeah. Fairly clearly put directly into my mouth from
right.
We did not invite Scott here to pimp Windows 8 like this. This is an outrage.
It's
not that kind of forum.
This is the truth is that I think anybody that knows you, Scott, knows you have enough integrity not to
except
be a
for
shill.
all the people who don't think I have any integrity.
You called your employer the Death Star in like the first 3 minutes of your presentation.
I call my employer the Death Star several times a week.
Even when Robert Scoble was the first blogger, sort of the first Microsoft blogger that had some kind of formal thing associated with that, and of course he was accused of being a shill as well. But people that knew him realized that he was just speaking his mind. To be fair, Microsoft may think that we need Windows 8 and Windows 8 RT, but they don't think that people shouldn't be allowed to speak their mind on the internet.
What? I totally disagree. Microsoft has the most liberal blogging rules ever.
That's my point.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry that I said it with about 4 double negatives. And
there's a great in Scott's presentation. There's a great line that I've been using a lot in my personal life, which is you're not Scoble. Is kind of If people haven't seen this, just search for Scott.
Hanselman productivity.
Scott Baio productivity. You'll find all kinds of great. No, but the website has it's this awesome like hour-long amalgam of every good productivity book ever written. He's kind of pulled all the cool stuff. But there is this thing about you're not Scoble. A lot of the piece, I think, Scott, tell me if I'm misrepresenting you, since every time we've tried to characterize you, we've gotten it wrong. But I think it's about sort of not doing things, eliminating the things that are not important in your life, and being more selective. And you're not Scoble has this thing, that kind of says you won't be able to do all these things. You can't be the perfect blogger and the perfect writer and all these. And working, I think, here at a company where you see, like, we've had a Joel Spolsky, and he's done his blog.
Well, and he has a law.
And has a law, and has all these sort of phenomenal accomplishments. And as I watch that, I constantly keep, saying to Joel, you're not Hanlon. You can keep trying, but you're just never. It's not gonna.
It's also astonishing how
don't beat yourself up.
How idle I am most of the time, given the number of apparent accomplishments.
Well, maybe you'll achieve something at some point.
I heard you were teaching recruiters how to recruit yesterday, I think. I was watching it on the internet. It was insane.
It's completely inappropriate.
You're narrowing their funnels.
Completely inappropriate. The usual problem. See, this is what I thought would happen, Scott. I thought, the trouble is when you're working remotely, and there's a difference between working on a distributed team and being a distributed person on a not so distributed team. And I think the biggest fear is that when you're the distributed person, they tend to sort of forget to tell you things that happened in incidental, accidental conversations.
Yeah. Or when they're doing the stand-up, they hang up on you and forget that you hadn't yet done the part of the stand-up where you talk.
Right. They're just like, okay, we're all done. Bye.
Yeah. I have had that happen.
It's not rude. It's just human nature.
No, I just forget you. That's why I insist on cameras at every meeting.
Yeah.
And so few. There's so many people with Microsoft and elsewhere who are seriously okay with being like on a conference call. And it's not just a conference call where you give me the respect of putting the phone on your actual ear, but it's the kind of the Klingon phone conference call, that 3 spiked phone that sits in the middle of the table.
Yeah, it's like a polygon.
And you talk into the Klingon logo. And
that's what it is.
Yeah, and now you'll never be able to unsee that.
Yet another Klingon conspiracy exposed.
Alex, we need more Klingon stuff in our conference room besides the phone.
No, we're not doing that.
I want all kinds of Klingon stuff.
People don't think about that, like, gosh, yelling into a Klingon phone from 30 feet away is probably not the best way for me to connect with you on an emotional level.
Because there's no video, or because...
Because I can't hear you, because you sound like you're in a tin can, because you're far away. You obviously don't care that you want to be heard, because you're literally not thinking about the other person and their situation. I know that this is harsh to say, but not thinking about the experience that your remote worker has shows a lack of empathy.
There's something that used to happen with speakerphones. I think it's less true because the mics are getting better. But people used to, you could always hear when somebody was on a speakerphone. And so if somebody called you up and then they put you on speaker or something, it was almost like, I am too lazy to lift up the handset of the phone.
The odds that they're not multitasking approach 0 when someone is on a speakerphone sitting in front of a computer.
And then all of a sudden you hear clicking and clacking.
Almost always email reading, at least. I think it's...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When I have a one-on-one conversation with somebody remote, I always go to video if I can. I prefer Skype and just go to video. Although FaceTime is awkward for some reason. I don't do that with...
FaceTime, I want to like FaceTime.
Yeah. FaceTime is the iPhone thing where you push a button.
All FaceTime does is it makes you look like you just woke up, no matter what time of the day it is.
Are you kidding? It makes me look like a psycho crazy monster from...
Yeah. It's awful.
See, we bring the Microsoft guy on, and first he sells his product, then he says how terrible Apple's is. We knew this might happen.
Okay, so my next question is, we actually want to spend as much as we possibly can on remote collaboration because it's important to us.
Sure.
We used to have a robot.
What about have you heard about the double robot, Scott?
Yeah. This is there's several robots. There's the giraffe from the labs in Austin. What are those guys called?
Giraffe Labs.
No, it's like Garage Lab. But then there's the new one, the double robot. It's a $2,500 iPad on a stick.
Yeah, on a Segway.
Well, it's a poor man's Segway because it has a kickstand. So when it gets tired, it actually just puts its foot out and then leans.
Well, yeah, that saves to save energy. But
still, if you're Cayman, you're going to be like, come on. just sit there.
This is not what I intended this for.
But the idea is that you take an iPad, which has a stunningly good camera and a very nice screen and unbelievable computational power, and you use that as your avatar in this other world, essentially, which is the office. And so you have a little thing you can drive around all day and go knock on people's doors. How'd you knock, actually?
You would just lean up against the door really hard.
It seems like an over-engineered... It's like, why don't we create a whole virtual world, and we'll all have to live in that world, and then we can just stick our virtual heads into each other's. It's a little forced.
No, it's a real world. This is a Segway driving around.
Why don't we have someone we could hire a guy to walk around
and this is an unpaid intern kind of role.
It would actually be quite a bit cheaper if you paid somebody.
Wait, so you just put an iPad, you get them a shirt that has an iPad holder on it, and there's an iPad on their chest.
That,
for $2,500,
you could get a lot of...
Actually, Arrested Development solved this problem, the professional surrogate.
Okay.
They did have a couple of episodes of Arrested Development with this.
But remote workers.
So remote work, we finished that. Windows 8.
Is this the podcast?
We're almost ready to start.
We're getting close.
What about Windows 8?
It's coming out tomorrow.
Friday, it came out a while back too for some people.
Yeah, well, for special people.
Well, for anyone who has
Anybody with
MSDN, or the interest in downloading it over the last year.
There's a lot of people saying that this is just going to be way confusing and people's brains are going to explode.
So I'm old enough to be a Windows 3.1 to Windows 95 person.
I started on Windows 1.0.
People went nuts. You changed when you moved my cheese.
Oh, but it didn't matter because nobody used Windows 3.1. That was a very small number of people.
Well, Windows for Workgroups 3.11 was the bomb.
3.11.
3.11 people.
That just came up today. We were talking about Hot Dog Stand.
Yeah, Hot Dog Stand is a
color
great
scheme.
theme. Yeah. No, but people are freaking out, and so I went and did a YouTube video that says learn Windows 8 in 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Windows apologist. I'm looking at 2 Macs and I've got Ubuntu and a VM. I mean, believe me, I can run any operating system. I don't really care. But the declaration that the world is ending because I hit the start button and I see more than I saw before.
But in a confusing way.
Oh, for crying. BS. A bunch of squares on the screen. Yeah. At least the pixels are working for me. Yeah. If you don't like it, push the Windows button, and when you push it, close your eyes. Start typing, hit enter, and then open your eyes. Then it's Windows. Looks like Windows 7.
True.
My only response to that was, and I tried it when it was still a pre-release candidate, that's not explained to you. Or it's explained to you once at the beginning, but there's no visual cues after that's what you need to do.
Oh, you can type? Wait. When you're looking at that start screen, you can type words?
Are you joking?
Yes.
If only there were a giant Windows button on every keyboard sold in the last 20 years.
Yeah, but that
button does
exactly.
something?
It's been sold for 20 years, so they've trained me never to press it because it doesn't do anything.
That's nonsense. You're just being trolls now, guys.
No, I honestly had this experience, and this is boring because everyone's saying the same thing. You just go around and around. But I had that experience. I tried using Windows 8.
Now, here's the deal. You guys, and by you guys I mean the set of all people who aren't me, will put together tutorials and spend 40 minutes trying to explain to someone how to use VI. Here's how you justify learning this new text editor.
That's true.
And you won't spend 5 minutes to learn the hotkeys to be better at the operating system that you're going to run.
I don't think anybody's I refuse to learn that. I think.
Seriously.
I think what they're doing is they're extrapolating. They're saying that.
Hang on, I'm not done ranting yet. OS 10 people know for a fact that their operating system is unusable without Quicksilver.
I don't even think. I thought Quicksilver is over.
And some people are like, "Oh, I use Spotlight." Really? Seriously? You use Spotlight to find your way around, and now you've got mission control, and you've got dashboard, and you've got spaces.
Turn all that stuff off.
Yeah, it's all space, time machine, and spaces. And what do? You just click the little. You just stab at the little buttons in the dock. Is that
you're
what
right.
You do?
I use Launch Bar. Right. Launch Bar makes it work.
I use Spotlight.
Taskbar launch. See.
Yeah, you're right.
If I want to just type the name of a program to run it, then I use Spotlight.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the same thing.
The truth is, it doesn't matter. This is an operating system. This isn't an app, right? And people spend so much of their time either in web browsers or manipulating web browsers so that they can be in multiple web browsers at once.
It's a non-issue. It really is. I mean, people will learn, and then
don't you think that the corporations will say, well, let's just skip this round.
They
just
always
the next time.
Would say that. I don't really care.
Skip every other round.
Right, every corporation skips every round they can until their stuff is so obsolete that people are threatening to revolt.
These guys they skipped everything since Windows XP because they just don't want to upgrade, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is that the argument that someone's moved my cheese, the start button's gone. Do you really want the start button to be here for the next?
No, I never really liked the start button. That was just a hierarchical menu. It was impossible to find.
Why is the shutdown in the start menu? That really still bothers. It weirds me out.
There's 3 or 4 different ways to shut it down.
First of all, you're not shutting down your computer anymore. That's over.
Well, I don't understand why people don't just use the power button.
Just close the lid.
The power? You mean to physically power it off?
No, if it's time to shut off your computer, you either close the lid.
The reason they don't do that, Scott, is because for the first 20 years we taught them that was very, very bad.
Right. It's like every time you pull a drive out in a Mac, and it's like, what are you doing?
Fault. The kids that are 20 years old don't remember that, Joel. Right?
Yeah. Most people don't remember.
Well, and with an iPad, you have to hold down the button to turn it off if you really, really want to turn it off.
There's nobody ever turns off an iPad except on the airplane.
But I'm just pointing out that people are complaining about the gestures on Windows 8, but they don't want to talk about double tap the home button, swipe to the right.
Wait, double tap the home button, swipe to the right. See, that's the other thing. All these hidden swipey things.
See, these are the things that you have to know. You have to know to be an effective iPad user. Right.
But part of the trick is I think there's not these companies in both cases are targeting two totally different segments, right? Which is they want some people to be able to pick it up and not care because everything they mostly need is easy and they can just touch a square or touch the icon on the iPad. And the notion is there's a totally different group that will learn how to bypass that if they don't like it in Windows, or on Mac will learn, or on the iOS will learn that there's 16 secret 4-finger swipes that aren't really explained, but if you care, they're in there.
Exactly. And the same thing applies on every system, right? Like my dad doesn't know what the dashboard is on OS X.
iPhone has gotten so friggin' complicated over the years. Each new version introduces one new thing that you can do with a double click and a swipe.
Swipe down, long press, hold it down.
Right. And all that, there's all these subtleties that have shown up. But what's interesting is that they've sort of been teaching people as they went along. So they started with iPhone 1, and then they had different versions, and each version introduced one new thing. And there's this sort of core audience that's learned them all. But if you were absolutely new to iPhone, if you were switching from a smartphone directly to an iPhone 5, I think you'd find it pretty complicated. There's kind of a lot of moving parts to learn about.
I don't know. My mom just got an iPhone, and she literally was upgrading. I'm not kidding. From the original StarTAC. I swear she'd been buying batteries on eBay for years because they weren't sold anymore.
Yeah, they don't even make them anymore.
And she loves it. Now she calls it a machine, and she says she was listening to her stories on it on the way over. But she loves this phone.
She was listening,
and
to
she probably doesn't double tap or
no, she doesn't know any of that stuff. So it doesn't.
Yeah,
but
there's one button.
True.
There's one button. There's the home button, right?
I think those two separate. A little bit of those the audiences that companies care about, I think, are bucketed. I thought your Scott, your kind of rant on everything's broken and no one's upset. One thing that struck me was at the end of the day, I think if the issue is not Maps doesn't work or email won't work, what you get in, I think, a lot of these companies is the answer to all your complaints is if fully 1% of the people have something that breaks and it doesn't happen in the first week, I'm not sure they care to prioritize fixing that. It just doesn't serve their interest. That it's a small enough number that almost everyone else just thinks it pretty much works all the time.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, also, if something doesn't work in a initially disturbing enough way, then people will just dogpile on it. Like iOS Maps, it's fine. I mean, seriously, I've driven all over.
It is not fine.
It is not acceptable.
It may not be fine in New York. But I've driven all over Oregon and Washington. I was in Arizona a couple weeks ago.
Totally
I was in
like
Denver. I used it exclusively as my GPS.
But let me ask you, you use it, I'm guessing, you want to get from one address to another address, and you use it to get turn-by-turn directions.
I usually get turn-by-turn directions from wherever I am to Chipotle.
It is good at that. It is good at turn-by-turn directions on roads. What's
the
what it's no good. So, for example, if you say pizza near here, it will send you to Staten Island. Like it is terrible at points of interest stuff. Like the database is just brutal. It's Yelp. If it's not in Yelp, it basically doesn't know it.
Okay. So we hate Yelp now too?
It's just it's more specialized.
So I thought Yelp is like, a startup darling, like everyone loves Yelp.
Yelp's great, but it's for interesting restaurants, which isn't the entire database of places of interest you might care about.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about something else.
We talk about Twitter.
No, we got to say something about Stack Exchange.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about Stack Exchange.
So Scott's got a cool quote that's Stack Exchange-y.
Okay, go.
So you had a reference in the presentation about sort of when people email you and you talk about one of the things I really like was the finite number of keystrokes in your life and you're going to decide who to allocate them to. So some bozo emails you, your first response is you deserve one of my 10 million keystrokes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you talk about sort of when someone writes and says, please send me the codes. Your instinct is, no, I don't know you, and I've limited keystrokes. I'm doing that, so I'm going to blog about it instead, because then I can share this idea with a lot more people.
That makes me be my own personal Stack Exchange.
Right, and that I think struck me as sort of a perfect summary of sort of what we're always going for. Is like, how do we take this individual question and problem and turn it into something that is semi-universal, not universal, but universal to people like this.
Well, and that's how Stack Exchange has kind of single-handedly killed all blogs. Is that no one wants? No, you guys are.
We were only going for you. The rest was to hide the original crime.
Mission accomplished. But you're higher than everyone else in the Google juice, and you're highly optimized. So what that means is, rather than emailing your friend and having your friend email you back, you guys have done exactly what I recommend, which is you throw it out onto the web so it's Googleable, and someone goes and answers it so it's Googleable. So you are a big old, like you said, a big old blog wiki forum.
I think there's sort of a continuum of blogging that goes from sort of zero effort to very high effort. And the highest form of effort of blog, I think, is probably the original classic Dave Weiner as invented by Dave Weiner, right? Where you own it. It's on your own site. You hopefully control your own domain.
That requires effort.
Yeah, he actually requires you to have your own server so that you can control it.
Yeah. Radio
and,
user land.
Come up with your own ideas and write your blog posts. And so I did that. But then there was slightly less effort, like Blogger or Blogspot was it called, I guess, where it was Blogger, but it was hosted. You didn't have to find a place to host it yourself.
Right.
And all the way down to sort of the lowest form of, I don't want to call it the lowest form of blogging, but the least effort form, which is Facebook, I'm going to argue. And that's why there were 1 million people blogging on Facebook. Twitter is about halfway there. So halfway to Facebook.
Twitter's more publishy a little bit than Facebook.
Well, the problem with Twitter is Twitter's not searchable.
It doesn't even keep it anymore past a certain point.
But the whole thing is that Facebook, I don't know if Facebook is so searchable or keeps it or whatever, but Facebook is so low effort. I mean, it's just like, oh, I got a picture I want to share. Share this picture with my friends. Done. It's like a couple of clicks, and it's doing something very similar to blogging. And the Facebook feed is like a kind of an RSS feed that you don't control that's got advertisements in it, and it's obviously inferior to the high effort versions that Dave Weiner invented, but it's the same human activity. Just easier. And as it gets easier, it gets dumber, right? Because there's more.
Well, the bar is lower. You don't feel like you have to produce a good idea.
That's right.
And think it through.
That was what I felt about Twitter. I still feel that about Twitter, except that I understand now that Twitter is just for links, not for thoughts. But what I've thought about Twitter is it's just like, wow, this is like blogging made easy and stupid. And it was that way for a long time until people learn the new way of using it is to show people things, to link to things, not to actually say things. But Facebook, you are actually saying things, and they're the kind of things that everybody wants to say to each other, not just people that have wise ideas like the law of leaky abstractions that need to be promulgated.
What do you mean? Like here's a political candidate you already like saying right things, like that sort of thing. Or here's my puppy and he's still cute.
Yeah, here's my puppy and he's still cute is fine.
People like looking at that.
So Scott, you talk about Twitter as sort of the decline of modern online writing civilization sometimes.
I don't phrase it that way. I think that Twitter is a really lazy place to try to have a conversation. Twitter is just the complaint I was saying earlier about chatting. Have you ever heard of someone saying something controversial on Twitter, someone complaining about it, and then someone actually having a substantive discussion and then coming around and saying, wow, you really changed my perspective.
Yes.
I am voting for the Green Party this year.
You did that with John Sheehan yesterday. I saw it.
Well, but I understand it only took 2 tweets.
That's right.
Put any effort into it, then you're wasting time.
I'm going to link to it in the show
Scott,
notes.
I think you tweeted 212 times yesterday.
Is that right?
I sincerely doubt
He's
that.
looking at some notes.
Probably 200 of them were replies thanking people for saying.
That's right.
That's probably right. That's probably right.
Yeah.
I probably tweeted more like 20 times yesterday.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
That just means I pooped 20 times.
You really get poop into almost everything. That comes up in almost. I'm going to just stop that sentence.
So when did you start stalking me? Yeah.
This morning.
As soon as I discovered you weren't Scott Baio, I did a lot of homework.
Really? Magical.
Well, that's the podcast.
Good night, everybody.
I think we should let Scott.
You realize there's actually nothing to put in the podcast yet, right?
What? No, that's a podcast.
Is this what you guys are doing? Like, is this how you podcast?
This might be our best one.
Do we have any news since the last podcast? I have been out of town the whole time. And let me think, did I do any Stack Exchange things on my trip? Oh, I spoke at Startup School. That wasn't really Stack Exchange-y. And I spoke to a bunch of recruiters in London. And
that was Stack Exchange.
That's sort of Stack Overflow careers, yeah.
Why don't you tell us about it, Joel?
Okay, I spoke to a bunch of recruiters in London, and I told them that their job is not to bring people into the company, but to make the company awesome so that people want to come there.
Now, how many businesses do you have right now?
Too many.
I'm in every
It sounds like Scott has not sampled your gluten-free ice cream yet, Joel, because he has almost no familiarity.
That's right. I also have low-sugar doggy shampoo.
No, but like Trello's you too, right?
That's right. No, it's not me personally. That's the company Fog Creek Software, which I own a big chunk of.
Okay, but you're still over there hanging out and like using the up-down desks and stuff, right?
I do hang there a little bit, but it's really only like a few hours a week that I spend on Fog Creek stuff. Mostly Stack Exchange. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah, there's a really good team. The Trello team is 10 people at this point, and my involvement in Trello was essentially that I drew a picture of what it should look like on some graph paper and tried to explain it to a couple of smart people, and they took it from there.
What's funny about Trello is that at the simplest level, it's a Kanban board. It's not rocket science. It's lists and cards.
Yes. The only distinction is that a Kanban board is really a part of a particular software development methodology. Right. And this was just an attempt to kind of...
one.
Yes, exactly. To remove all opinion from that. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've gone and you've made the internet's equivalent of to-do.text, except you've done it in such a clean way with APIs and a
It's for teams too, right? It's for coordinating with teams.
So Miguel de Icaza yesterday tweeted that one of the world's dirty little secrets, or software development's dirty little secrets, is that every single software project on the planet is now being managed in a Trello board.
Huh. I know of one that is not.
I'm just saying that, like, the rise of Trello and simplicity just makes me wonder what made it work. You know, it's the speed, it's the simplicity, it's the keyboard shortcuts.
I think with my personal view of Trello is people think too hard. People who think about these things are fascinated by David Allen and all these systems. Right, we're inclined to think too hard about how the system is different and how the lists and the cards. And the truth is, it's not that, in my opinion. I think what makes Trello work so well is it's a combination of the syncing is instant and you don't have to think about it; it just happens. Combined with there's a very natural tactile feel. Like, I think with Trello, one of the key things is that when you move things around, and it's in a website, it feels almost magical. You can just slide it around like you're moving cards on a board in front of you, and that the tactile experience and the instant syncing make organizing appealing in a way that is much, I think, more important than how the lists are structured. I think
it's a tiny bit fun.
It's fun and it's natural. Instead of feeling like you have to learn some complex thing and fight it to get it to do what you want to show people how you can slide these cards around and they just move. Like, it has a bit of a tactile fun magic to it.
Well, I think it's pretty cool. I actually manage I have moved my life from to-do.text into Trello. So I actually have my own personal scrums.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have Chrome notifications? Because I know that there's notifications, but it doesn't actually pop up outside the thing.
I remember hearing that it does have Chrome notifications.
Because I found a blog post about it, but I can't turn it on, and I feel like that's the one thing that's missing.
I think we just got that.
Really?
Yeah.
I've got it pinned in my taskbar here, and I want it to go and update the buttons with a little number that shows me things that have changed.
Oh, number of notifications. The notifications.
Yeah. It only does it in Windows. It only does it in a window right now, I think.
Yeah. It's lovely though.
We'll get that. We'll get there if there's a way. We have teams working. We got a Windows 8. Have you seen our Metro Trello?
I've emailed them 3 weeks ago and asked them to give it to me, and they have not answered me.
Okay, I'll get.
This is a public call to getting me a Windows 8 version.
It's still very.
No, I know. I just want to make sure it has a good snapped view.
Yeah,
that's all I care about.
It does actually. I'm just showing that the other day.
It's like the whole point. It has to have an awesome snap view.
I think the snap view is just the notifications, right? It's just telling you.
No. You got to let me have different lists in the thing. That way I can work the issue.
All right.
Snap view, because it's all about multitasking, right? I'm going to dedicate an entire monitor to this thing. And
well, that's definitely where the cool stuff happens, is that if you do dedicate an entire monitor, it starts to be really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
We see that. I don't know how often I walk into a startup and there's a gigantic whiteboard with a whole bunch of little Post-it notes on it. And it's literally could be moved into a Trello, and sometimes it has been. And you notice that the Post-its are all 3 months old or something because they stopped updating that when they switched to the Trello. What else? So the real question is, what has everybody here been doing while I was away on the road?
Well, there's a couple of things we're not talking about yet.
Okay.
Secrets.
Some stuff we've already talked about. The review dashboard. We've been making more and more tweaks to that. But that's boring. We already talked about that.
Yeah, that's true. We just don't have anything to talk about.
So this is like a total downer now. Like, the whole thing has been just like a crazy roller coaster ride, and now it's all like we're talking features and stuff.
It's true. What's your favorite Stack Overflow question? Okay, never mind. You've been listening to the Stack Overflow podcast, Stack Exchange podcast number 35.
This is really fun. I've never done a content-free podcast.
That's not true. You
were on this before.
You were on this before with
that
Rory.
Is true. I have done one
with Rory Blythe and Jeff Atwood.
That was awful.
That was in San Francisco.
Yeah, we called it the worst podcast ever. In fact, that was the title of it.
We knew it was going to be the worst podcast ever.
Perhaps you changed your mind about that today.
But it was funny. I mean, anybody with a sense of
this
humor.
This one was only a little
laughing.
bit funny.
So going back to Louis C.K. real quick, my favorite part is that his whole rant is literally a conversation I have had with Joel before. About how, oh my God, the go-go Wi-Fi on the damn Virgin America flight is so slow.
It is. It's like everybody logs onto it. It's unusable. Why the heck did they make Wi-Fi? Why did they think that 3 megabits per second was enough for a whole airplane? What were they thinking?
I think it was more of a limitation of physics.
No, I don't think it's a limitation of physics. They just.
No, it's just a number. They just picked it and they said that's enough.
Why couldn't they make it 100?
I always like it when the chairs reboot, and then I can see the little Linux penguin as
that's true.
And I realize that the entire exit row is like terminaled into one machine. We're all sharing it together.
I also like it. You don't have your own CPU?
No, are you kidding? Oh, it's all one big X window. It's even better.
It's a TRS-80 from 1982.
Yeah. It's even better on the ones that run Windows when it's like one of the little graphics fails to load, and then it's like, oh, there's a little IE no graphic icon that's right there.
All right, Joel, we need to get a usable sign-off recording.
Can I just make one observation that needs to be kept in the show?
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting how much effort you and Alex are putting into the opening of the show and the ending of the show, but not the show itself.
Show is just... It's just a bunch of random chit-chat.
Joel, we really need to make sure that we get a clean sign-off here because otherwise the show will be crap.
You have been listening to podcast episode 35 of the Stack Exchange podcast with special guest Scott Hanselman.
It is a joy. Always a joy.
See you next week.
I feel like he was lying about that last part there.
I had fun.
Break it down. Werewolf bar mitzvah, spooky, scary. Boys becoming men, men becoming wolf. Werewolf bar mitzvah, spooky, scary. Boys becoming men, men becoming wolf.
If you can sing Werewolf Bodega, I can sing Werewolves of London.
No, mitzvah, not werewolf bodega. What the hell's a werewolf bodega?
Werewolf Bodega. I would buy a hot dog from there.
Oh, is it the bar mitzvah bodega? Wait, what?
Werewolf bar mitzvah. Spooky, scary.
Ooh, Werewolves of London.
That is a different thing.
Scary.